Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's Tuesday, April. No, it's not. It's Monday. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's Monday, April 17th, and the United States government just released its new guidance for the EV tax credit here in the US, and I want to bring you up to speed on those changes, analyze some of the winners, analyze some of the losers, and let's just go ahead and get started right away. I have 4 dogs in the house today. My parents are visiting for the week. I'm so happy to see them, but it may get loud. It may get loud in here, so I do apologize if there's cuts in this video. So, Volkswagen, Rivian, Nissan, BMW lose access to U.S. EV tax credit is the headline that Reuters released today, and obviously this is in tandem with the new guidelines from the Inflation Reduction Act that the United States passed as a bill last year, and now we have really the full guidance on what this EV tax credit is going to be moving forward for electric vehicle manufacturing in the United States, especially those related to sort of making sure that the battery manufacturing stays in the United States, and that's why we've had a change in some of the rulings. So if you go to fueleconomy.gov here in the US, we have a new sort of guideline on which cars are getting what credits, federal tax credits for plug-in hybrid, electric, and fuel cell vehicles purchased in 2023 or after. Federal tax credit up to $7,500, y'all. But of course, you have to make sure you have to be within the income threshold that the United States has put in place. So make sure you find that out and see if you're eligible, if you are interested in this tax credit from the US. If you scroll down, there is a filter table that you can search through. You can put in your from and to model year, the make, or you can do a wide search of all the different products. Now, I'll show you every single car that's actually on that list. There's not very many, surprisingly. So I'll go ahead and go through that list real quick. From a Tesla perspective, you have basically Tesla's entire Model 3 and Model Y lineup is on there. The notable change is the Model 3 standard range has gone down from $7,500 to $3,750. So that's one of the changes. You have the Cadillac Lyriq retaining $7,500. All of Chevy's new vehicles coming this year, the Blazer, the Equinox, and the Silverado, are going to be getting the $7,500 EV tax credit. The Bolt and the Bolt EUV retain their $7,500 tax credit. You have the Pacifica PHEV, which is a minivan hybrid, retains a $7,500 credit. I don't know how to feel about that. Then you have Ford with their van. It actually loses $3,750. The plug-in hybrid Escape loses $3,750. And then you have the F-150 Lightning retaining $7,500, and the Mustang Mach-E loses $3,750. And this is kind of a big deal, and we'll see it later on in the video. Then you have the Grand Cherokee and the Wranglers. They lose $3,750, but they still get an EV tax credit because they're hybrids. Go figure. The Aviator Grand Touring Lincoln retains $7,500 credits. So a massive gas car retains its $7,500 EV tax credit. That makes sense. And the Lincoln Corsair Grand Touring loses $3,750. And so now we're going to go through the winners and losers from this, put it in a chart, and kind of get you up to speed on what it is. Surprisingly, those are all the cars. And there should be less because those hybrids, I don't think, in my opinion, should qualify, but it is what it is. We've come quite far already, and so maybe we shouldn't push any further, but it is what it is. So let's go ahead and look at winners and losers. If you're enjoying this video so far, I would love it if you throw me a like. It helps the YouTube algorithm show this to more people. Thanks so much. I really appreciate you. Thank you. So from my perspective, the big winners here are Tesla and GM. They're going to be able to retain their full $7,500 credit. The only exception here for Tesla is going to be the Model 3 rear-wheel drive car. The S and X do not qualify because they're above the $80,000 MSRP limit. If they were below it, those cars would qualify, but they haven't qualified since all the way back in the day with the original EV tax credit that they stopped getting in around 2018. The F-150 Lightning is it's another big winner here. It's able to retain its full credit, and especially if you put it against the Rivian, the F-150 just became $7,500 cheaper versus the lowest spec Rivian pickup truck, which I believe was qualified for the $7,500 credit up until this change. So big loss for the Rivian sort of lowest trim pickup truck. Kia and Hyundai remain at $0 EV tax credit. They weren't getting it before, they're not getting it now, and that's because they don't have any manufacturing for batteries and raw materials in the United States, so that's why they lost the full amount. And then Ford loses half the credit on the Mach-E. We already know that. This is already, the Ford is an expensive car relative to its peers, and they lost another $3,750, and we know that Ford is making negative 40% margin on their EVs already, so it's going to be harder for them to lower the costs and trying to get more demand, I believe. We'll see what Ford does. And then Volkswagen is a huge loser here because it went from essentially receiving $7,500 credit to zero. And ID4 was meant to be an affordable car for the masses, and it just got $7,500 more expensive. And we know that Volkswagen is also not making money on those cars. And then for GM, the Equinox, the Silverado, and the Blazer are set up for success. They're coming in with the full $7,500 credit once they launch this year. So we should see really good sales from them, hopefully, if they're good cars and it's something that resonates with the public. So here's a full list. Feel free to pause. A lot of information on here. So what I've done is I've taken basically every car that's not a pickup truck in the compact sedan and SUV segments with a variety of trims for each maker, and I've applied the MSRP, the EV credit to their starting MSRPs, which do not include any dealer markups for non-Teslas. So a lot of these might be even more expensive, or they could be cheaper depending on what a deal you can get at the dealership if it's not a Tesla. So, and I sorted it by the net price. So I sorted it after the EV tax credit, if you qualify based on your income, how much that car would cost from lowest to highest. And then I've also included the range for those cars, the drivetrain, the 0 to 60 time, if it has a frunk, yes or no, and then the dollar per range, so you can kind of understand what kind of efficiency you're getting from the money you're paying, your best bang for your buck from a range perspective. And you'll notice that for the frunk, for some of them I have kind of, like the Hyundai and the Kia. And the reason why I had to show this picture, it's because this is what the frunk looks like for those cars. I don't know, kind of, right? It is. It's like it's a trunk within a trunk. 2 doors is like, blows my mind. But, you know, they have something you can put up front. So that's why I put kind of, just so you're aware of why I did that. So here's the same exact list, but I have it sorted by dollar per range from lowest to highest, so you can see sort of the deals you get from if you just want your best bang for your buck. So some of the observations here from my standpoint is that the Chevy Bolt is by far the cheapest point-to-point vehicle if you're looking to just get from point A to point B. The big thing for the Chevy Bolt here is that it doesn't have fast charging, so it's going to be very tough to use for long trips. It's also slow, but that's okay. But it has decent range, 250 miles. So it's a really good option for, I think, folks that have a garage at home so they can charge at home. They're not looking to go long distances with the car. And ideally, they have a second car they can use for, say, lugging stuff around and carrying big things. So this might be a really good option. After that, you got the Teslas, which are coming in at the lowest dollar per range after the sort of this new tax credit. The Model 3 standard range is still in there, even though it reduced the credit by $3,750. So that's a pretty good thing, and it gets pretty good performance versus its peers. It is a sedan, but it's still a pretty good deal. The Model Y long range, after the change to the Model 3 standard range, is now the third best bang for your buck with the extended range, which is a fascinating thing. It is quite significantly more expensive than the other two, but it's a really good bang for your buck. And then you sort of start going down the list, and this is where the Volkswagen starts to really suffer from a not just affordability, but also bang for your buck. The Ford Mach-E also suffers dramatically because it is quite an expensive car, and it's losing $3,750 from there. They're great cars, but they're tough to afford. And if we go to the original sorting, where it was by the net price, you can see that the Ford and the Kias are still suffering. The Volkswagen is still quite an affordable car relative to its peers, but it did lose that edge it had with that $7,500 credit. So you can see that the standard range Model 3 is now about $700 cheaper, even though it's a sedan, where the Volkswagen ID4 was over $7,500 cheaper versus the Model 3, actually technically $3,750 cheaper versus the Model 3 not that long ago. So yeah, so the landscape is changing. So I'm really curious to hear what you think about all these things here. It is, again, sorted by dollar per range, so you can kind of see what's going on. So here's a very fascinating observation that I'll sort of use to wrap up the video. If you look at this list, all the non-Teslas, so anything that's not a Tesla, the Bolt, the Hyundai, the Kia, the Ford, the Cadillac, so on and so forth, these are projected to have combined globally about 300,000 units of, say, production for the full year in 2023. So all those EVs combined, those brands should be able to sell roughly 300,000 units just based on some rough calculations. Let me know in the comments if I have it wrong, but I think this is quite accurate, maybe 500,000 if they're super, super lucky. And what's interesting is that Tesla in 2023 is going to have roughly 2 million just on their own production between the Model 3 and the Model Y, roughly. And so that basically means that Tesla is going to have the ability to produce 4 to 5 times more cars just on their own versus the rest of their competition in the United States combined. So in 2023, we should expect a mass of Teslas taking over the globe in volume, especially now that in the United States, at least, they have now this new dynamic around pricing. And as we know, Tesla's continually dropping prices. So I really think we're at the point now from an EV perspective that the race to maximum volume is fully on. So all the EV things are clarified. The credits are clarified in the United States. We know the credits in China. We know the credits in Europe. And now it's just a race of, okay, who can dominate the market? Who can put as many Teslas out there on the road? And I think from that perspective, Tesla's strategy around lowering pricing is starting to make a lot of sense, especially with this dynamic in the United States. Now that they're quite a bit more affordable versus their peers like a Volkswagen, and as they continue to drop prices, they might gain an even bigger advantage. But ultimately, I want to hear what you think. Do let me know in the comment section below. Very curious to hear your discussion, and on Twitter as well, at Farzyness, Farzyness. The unfortunate thing about the YouTube comments is that there's a lot of spammers and bots. I've tried my best to clean it up, but I still want to hear what you think. Definitely drop me a comment. If you want to see more content from me, please subscribe, and you'll see more of this content. I also have a Substack at farzadmisbahi.substack.com. Every single Wednesday, we drop a newsletter. And if you want to support the channel, I have merch in the description below. You can follow a link to my website, or you can use a coupon for Athletic Greens, which is a supplement I use every single morning. You get free travel packs and vitamin D. Thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate you. I hope this was informative and helpful, and we'll see you on the next one. Take it easy, everybody. Bye-bye.